Hi, so we're back with more AEW Revolution matches one by one. I'm sorry if this is doing anyone's heads in terms of doing one by one. Honestly, it's a bit more easier for me to, do, frankly, through the week. I've got work, stuff like that. But our next match we're going to talk about today is going to be Swerve versus Brody King to prove who is the most destructive. What's the words? Who's the most dangerous. That's it. Who's the most dangerous man in AEW? The dog's going wild here. I'm sorry. So, the match basically starts off with I thought it was quite weird that there was no stip, especially for the most dangerous man title type of deal. And it had the build where it's been Swerve versus Brody, and then choking each other out with the chain, Brody snapping chain, shit like that. So I felt like this needed a bit of a stip. Honestly, even after the match, I hope this isn't it. I'd like to see a match with a stip. One thing, even after the event and rewatching it, I thought this was very much a overlooked match of the night. I feel like this is very much I forgot that match was on the card, but it was still really good. It really was. Throughout the match, it's mainly Swerve's beating off Brody a bit, but it's very back and forth, which I do like. But they're both all just using heavy attacks essentially. A lot of slams, a lot of the Swerve houses, the house calls have been excellent in this match. They're excellent, truly. They're all on point. You can see all the connections on them. They're great. But then, as it further goes on as well, Brody's chops from the start are clearly the advantage he's got. Just proves that the strength of Brody is much greater. And obviously, there's a point where Swerve has basically Brody hurt, and then goes out to rip the mat up, and then tries to basically set up the slam on the mat. There's a lot of feats of strength from Swerve here, especially where he's picking up Brody. He picks up Brody for a powerbomb towards on the apron, which was nuts. But then he also does the dart spot, essentially, which is like he puts him on his shoulder and then throws him at the turnbuckle, which I enjoyed. That's very Kyle Fletcher-esque. What I do think was cool is, even though I think the match did need a stip, I feel like we would have benefited from it. But then the card was full of stipulation matches. I feel like the way they kind of put it over that it's non-stip and he still managed the way to make everything very dangerous was excellent. The removal of the turnbuckle, obviously the removal of the point between the turnbuckle, I liked. There's a powerbomb or like a brainbuster, whatever. I think it was a brainbuster Brody does on the edge of the ring and the stairs. That's fucking nuts. I thought that was immense. Really good. Use of the barriers, obviously Brody throwing Swerve into the barriers and even over the barriers at some point. Excellent. And just as it further goes on, there's just a lot more. You can see the injury. One thing I loved in the match was towards the end, Brody. So Swerve has Brody basically biting the ropes, and he's about to do a Swerve stomp into it, basically fuck him up. And Brody just goes, reverses it. It was excellent. I love the imagination for that spot. I thought that was very creative. And then as it further goes on, Brody has a lot of resilience towards the end, which I liked. I feel like they made Brody at the start look very, very dangerous. And not that they didn't make him look dangerous at the start, but to me, watching the match, I love Brody King, by the way. It's very clear there's a difference in gulf between him and Swerve. Swerve's excellence is just insane and experience too. And Brody's incredible, don't get me wrong, I love Brody King. Obviously there's fuck ice chants, by the way, good. But I just feel like you can notice the difference between the two wrestlers in terms of there's just a difference in level. And like Brody's getting there, but he's just not there yet. But towards the end, it's resilience. It does make it go into Swerve's favour. Nana's a piece of shit in this. You paid for this, Brody. Shit like that, shouting to Brody. One thing that was kind of, I do think, so like I said in the previous matches, Boxley and the Bucks matches specifically, there's been complaints about the kick out at once. It's the only one where, like, so far I'm like, yeah, this kind of, I didn't agree with the kick out at one. So what happens is Brody gets basically powerbombed onto the floor, the hard floor, where the mat wasn't there. And Swerve scatters in going, count him out. And then Brody crawls back in, resilience. And then Swerve hits a Swerve stomp straight away. Kind of like how he anticipated it. I thought that was excellent. And then when Swerve hits that, Brody gets pinned and it kicks out at one. And it was a cool moment, but it just kind of felt deflated because it didn't really need to happen. And Swerve's facial expression sells it. But what I did love after that was this is the finish. And I thought the finish was a great finish. I really did. Where Swerve hits a house call. Brody's like staggering. Then the second one, he hits another one, he's staggering, and Brody goes, "Rah!" Like yells, as you expect Brody King to. And then Swerve hits a third, and then it gets the pin, which I thought was really cool. It made Brody still look strong, but also gave Swerve the win. What I did like as well is, you know, obviously a lot of Brody, like a little, I don't know if it's a reference, but it's a callback to how Brody obviously choked out Max and Swerve gets out of that. That's how Swerve has to show a bit of resilience. It's very back and forth, like I said, and I kind of like that. I feel like, again, you could have went a bit more gritty with it. I feel like I would really like to see this feud continue, I would. But I think it might. Dynasty wouldn't be a bad call for this match to return. You know, maybe, honestly, get these two in a cage. It'll fucking create chaos. But probably not, because as the ends, as probably a lot of you know. So Swerve and Nana get the win, and he tells Nana to go outside, get something from under the ring. He gets a cinder block, Swerve staple, and then Swerve goes through it and basically has, ready to curb stomp Brody onto a cinder block, which was nuts. Nana's holding him. And then Kenny's music hit. Boom, Kenny makes the save. Kenny Omega is back, continuing him and Swerve. Having a bit of a feud, saving Brody, raises Brody's hand, really cool moment. Really nice to see Kenny there. Obviously, it was very up to debate with the Capcom Cup. What I liked was Nana shouting to Kenny, "You couldn't beat him, you'll never beat him." And I was like, fuck you, Nana. But Swerve and Kenny seem to be the end goal. I would like to see Swerve and Kenny have a match in a tag, in a sense of Swerve and a partner, probably Kevin Knight. I was thinking about this. Kevin Knight and Swerve versus Brody and Kenny. I think that'd be an incredible match. I think they'll do Swerve. It looks like they might be doing Swerve versus Kenny at All In. Maybe if Kenny's not in the world scene again. But it feels like with Kenny, it's very hard to place him because it's Kenny. He can do whatever. But like Swerve's been kind of not lackluster, but it's struggling to what Swerve has to do now. Because obviously Hangman, what's going on with Hangman's kind of distant for Swerve. He's already faced people like Andrade and Ospreay's clearly got sights on Moxley. There's two people out. Kenny feels like a guy there, but then you got Kenny still trying to push the obviously either the main belt, and then you've still got the trios belt with the book. So there's a lot there for Kenny. I think with Brody, Brody's got a lot more to do. I think you put Brody in the mid-card, have him win the TNT belt or something off Fletcher. I think that works. But going out of the match, I feel like I would like to see this again. I feel like this could definitely be in the Dynasty match. But then how much do you really want to develop Swerve and Kenny, or whoever you're doing Swerve for All In? I'd definitely like to see this again, either a tag match, or I feel like Swerve and Brody have something there. It just needs a bit more oomph. It needs a step. For me, it does need a step. So, past that, I just think it was a great match. It really was. I don't think this will be the match a lot of people talk about All In. It's definitely not match of the night. But it was excellent. It really was. It was a really fun match. Really entertaining. And frankly, it's two great wrestlers working as you expect. It's about 15 minutes. So it was a good match. It was a good meaty match. It was definitely good to follow after the Babes Wrath match. And honestly, yeah, I feel like this is a great match on its own. But again, it feels like the start or something. And again, can't repeat that enough. I'd really like to see this continue. And obviously, big thing is, it's really glad to see Kenny back. So there's two things. But honestly, great match. Great little midpoint of the show. Really enjoyed it. Really good match. So that's my thoughts on Swerve versus Brody with Kenny Omega returning. What's your thoughts on the match? Was this one of your favourite matches of the night? What do you think of Kenny returning? And where do you think Swerve and Brody both go from this point on? Do you think they run it back? I would really like to see that.